What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over my number one tip in Photoshop. My number one tip for working in Photoshop and making edits and graphics and editing pictures, really anything if you're using Photoshop. So let's dive right in. The number one tip I can give you is to not work destructively. What that means is when you're using Photoshop, there are a lot of ways that you can go through the process of making something and be hurting yourself as you're going along the way. So you want to do everything in a way that it can be easily undone at any point in the creation process. That's what I mean by working non-destructively. This is a really generic point and it's not super fancy, but it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache if you actually use it. And a lot of you may already be doing most of what I'm going to say, but those of you who aren't, and I know a lot of beginners, including me when I was a beginner, I wasn't doing any of this stuff, and I kind of do it to the extreme now, so maybe you don't need to do all of this stuff, but it's going to help you the more you do along the way, because I know it helps me, and it saves me a lot of time and heartache. The first way you can do this is to create smart objects. Now, a lot of you probably already use smart objects. Most people know about smart objects. But if you are using any asset, sometimes when you pull them into Photoshop or you copy and paste things into Photoshop or wherever you're getting them from, they're rasterized images, I think is the term. So the bad part about using images that you've just pulled in and they're not smart objects is when you're resizing them and changing them around, the quality of them is getting like ruined every time you do something to it. You can turn them into a smart object by right-clicking the layer and then clicking convert to smart object. If I sized it down and then back up and then down and then back up and down and back up, if it wasn't a smart object, that would eventually ruin the quality of it. And like immediately you're losing quality every time you do that. But if it's a smart object, it stays the same no matter what size you make it. So that's gonna save you and save the quality of your stuff. And when you're using pictures for edits and whatnot, I mean, obviously you wanna have the highest quality, especially for like close-ups and things like that. The better the quality, the more it's gonna benefit you in the end, and the way to keep the quality is by converting it to smart objects. And there are other benefits of using smart objects as well, but yeah, I would just say most of the stuff that I use, I convert to smart objects. The second point is use layer masks. So I don't know if any of you, only probably the super beginners are using like the erase tool and like things like that and not using layer masks to take things away. So like if you want to do a cutout or whatever of a player or a cutout of whatever, or you know, erase part of an image and keep the rest, then you need to be, well, I mean, I always make a smart object first, but you need to make a layer mask, which you just click the layer you want and then go down to the bottom and click the little like square with the circle in it, I think, and that's gonna make a layer mask for it. And then you can use the black or white brush to brush away or bring back anything that you want, any parts of it that you want or don't want, you can take away and bring it back. And it shows you like over in the right side, you know, with the white and the black, what's there and what's not there. But the thing is, like, you can always bring stuff back and always take stuff away. So like with an eraser tool, you wouldn't ever be able to get it back, but with this, you would. And the other good thing about using layer masks is you can use them on groups. So like say if you have all this stuff and you don't want to go through and like, I don't know, edit all these or like take away something in every single picture or whatever, you can put it all in a group, put a layer mask on it and cut out what you want. And so it makes things easier that way. But even still, like 30 minutes down the road, you can come back to that same smart object that you have a layer mask on, and if you want to add something back or take something away, you can still do that. So that's why layer masks are great. All right, the next point I'm gonna give you is create duplicates. I do this probably too much, but I do it with like everything. I'll give you an example of how I use duplicates. So if I want to take a smart object and then I put the layer mask on it and I'm cutting things away, but then for some reason I want to save that asset as just the cutout and not have the layer mask with it anymore, and then use that for something else later, I also want to have the version that has the layer mask, if that makes sense. So what I do is I duplicate the layer mask version. I have 2 smart objects, I duplicate it, I save one as I convert one to a smart object, and that way I have it and I can do whatever I want with it, because some things like won't let you, for instance warp won't let you do it if it has a linked layer mask. So for that reason I would need the smart object without the layer mask, but I still want it to be cut out the way I want it. So then I have that version, and because I duplicated it, I also have the old layer mask version. So if I need to go back and change that and like take something away or add something back, I can still do that. And what I do with that is I just like, you know, put that at either the top or the bottom of my layers and just turn that layer off. And then I have what I need. And if I want to change something later, I can go back and use that old layer that I had. But yeah, I create duplicates anytime I'm going to, I guess you could say anytime I'm working destructively. So anytime I know that I'm not gonna be able to go back and like take something away that I did or put something back, then I create a duplicate of that layer so I can go back to that step, because I don't want to be working like 30 minutes or an hour or whatever and then realize, oh yeah, I wish I would have, you know, had this instead of what I have here. To create a duplicate, I just do Control-J. I'm not sure what it is for Mac, but I'm sure there's an easy command. But yeah, if you're on a layer, you just hit Control-J, it'll duplicate the layer, and voila, there you go. And that works with like huge groups and stuff too. It could also like really slow down your computer, but if you have all this stuff and like in a huge group and you've done all this stuff to it, you can create a duplicate of that whole group and like shut off one group so that you can come back to that later if you need to and use the group that you want to, and you can technically work destructively. So the last thing is using clipping masks. And what you're gonna do is hold down Alt and click in between 2 layers. And what that does is it lets you have a layer on top of another layer, and that layer that's on top only affects the layer below. Instead of like, you know, painting white or painting light directly onto one layer, you can paint it onto the layer on top and then use a clipping mask, and it makes it easier because it only affects that, so like you don't have to like cut around and all that stuff. So you can paint light or do whatever onto the layer below, and it won't be stuck on that layer forever, because you can just delete that paint layer that you made if you don't want it anymore. Or you can use that paint layer and create a layer mask on that, and then you can brush away the paint that you don't want. So that's even double the security. The last extra tip is to use groups, because it'll help you organize and it'll help you duplicate things better. And like, you know, if I have all these layers that I've duplicated and I'm not using them right now, so like I have them shut off, I just put them in a group below and like turn that layer off, and if I need to go back and get some, I can. It also helps, like, you know, if you have a whole group of things together that you don't want to flatten, then you can put them in a group, and then you can use the clipping mask like I was just saying and do stuff on top of them that'll only affect the group. Smart objects, layer masks, duplicates, clipping masks, and groups are all things that are really going to help you save you a bunch of time, save you a bunch of heartache, and I use them all the time in every graphic or every edit or whatever that I do. This is my first real like try hard tutorial kind of video, so let me know if this helped you. Let me know in the comments if you learned anything, or like, you know, if this is even necessary. Maybe you already know all this stuff, a bunch of you probably already do. Some other tutorials that I make will be more advanced, some will be less advanced. So yeah, like this video, subscribe, let me know if this helped you out, and I'll see you in the next one.